Hi, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Rihanna, and welcome back to Fresh Off the Broke.
Fresh Off the Broke is about personal experiences growing up Asian American in a predominantly white community, Asian media, and Asian pop culture in general. Race has always been a sensitive topic. Every day, there are debates over race. With our podcast, we intend to shed light on the experiences of first-generation Asian immigrants, not put them on a pedestal.
We understand that race isn't everything, but there should be an acknowledgement of people of color, the knowledge gap, and the racial divide that will ideally be broken. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the episode. Today we will be talking about being transracial and the term RCTA. So recently we've been seeing the term RCTA trending on social media, and it kind of reminded us of, the term transracial and all the discourse around that. So we wanted to kind of just break it down for those who might not be familiar with it and talk about why we think it's really stupid, actually.
So to start off, we're going to do some brief descriptions, explanations. First, transracial. So, fun fact, the term transracial actually historically used to describe parents who would adopt a child of another race. And there's a whole transracial adoption community in that sense. And then I guess over time in recent years, people have used the term transracial as almost an alternative or like another version of being transgender, where you are race transitioning from, let's say, French to Japanese. And the transracial adoption community and what you would call people that originally used that term and held it were really upset beyond people that are upset with the transracial concept as a whole, that like transitioning to another race, because they felt like the term was being misused and then turned into something really negative, when for them it's not negative, it's something that's special. And actually in 2017, there was an academic paper published supporting the idea of being transracial. Again, transracial as in transitioning your race from one to another, and comparing it and drawing parallels to the concept of transgenderism and being transgender. Because I guess since you're both transitioning, I don't really want to, I don't understand it. I don't really know how much I want to.
Yeah.
But as you may assume, the paper was heavily scrutinized. People found it offensive. People did not think that it had a whole lot of base and ground, because being transgender is very different from being transracial. There are a ton of underlying factors that exist in a transgender person that do not exist in a transracial person. For instance, gender dysphoria. To my knowledge, the medical field does not have racial dysphoria.
No.
Let's look it up right now.
It definitely, and if it does exist, it's not a term that's heavily accepted. Because,
Yeah, racial dysphoria. So here, we are doing this live. Racial dysphoria, in a transracial sense, does not exist. People that are mixed race have used racial dysphoria or racial imposter syndrome to describe how they feel about their identity because they feel like they're not enough of either, well, depending on if you're biracial or like multi-ethnic, but they use racial dysphoria, mostly racial imposter syndrome, to describe the confusion and pressure they deal with on a day-to-day basis due to their non-single racial identity. So there you have it.
And that makes sense. Because, you know, there's like, you're born into a certain culture, expected to be a certain way. Like, that's different from just seeing a culture and being like, I really like that. That is essentially what transracial people feel.
Oh, this is interesting. I just found a website, home of satire and sarcasm.
Nice.
I was a little shocked just now because I thought that something actually happened with race dysphoria, but this is not a real article. American Psychiatric Association creates guidelines for race dysphoria. Race dysphoria involves the conflict between the person, physical or assigned race, and the race which they identify with. But yeah, this is not a real article. I was a little afraid that it was for a second. But no, it's not. If anyone would like to look at it, they can. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yes.
It is fake. And
fake news.
Yeah, that's about it. It's fake.
I mean, if you're listening and you're thinking like, this is not a real thing, I don't believe that people actually think this way, unfortunately, you are wrong. There are a handful of real life examples that have gone pretty viral. I think the most notable one would be Ollie London, who we have talked about on this podcast before. Ollie London was a white person, or quote unquote was a white person who changed into being Korean because they really liked BTS, specifically Jimin. You might recognize the name because they essentially got married to a cardboard cutout of Jimin.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And you know, this is obviously like somewhat not serious because Ollie London is known to be like a troll on the internet. You know, someone who's doing all this just for the attention and the fame. But that was like the first, I would say, like very mainstream example of someone claiming to be transracial. Another one that went viral was there was a Florida guy who claimed to be Filipino, used to go by Adam and now goes by some name. I don't know what name, but
like a very stereotypical Filipino name, I guess.
Not even, like, I don't even think it was a stereotypical Filipino name. But this person claimed to be Filipino because apparently they would watch like Discovery Channel and see like documentaries on the Philippines and just really resonate with it. So they decided that they needed to be a Filipino person. Yeah.
So he resonated with the Filipino people that he saw on screen.
Yeah.
And then wanted to be
Filipino himself. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. I think it was like an article that went viral. Probably people have probably seen like even just like the title of the article here and there. Yeah. So it's not necessarily like a niche topic. Like this is something that does pop up, especially nowadays, quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I blame the internet.
Same. Okay.
And I mean, even before it was a trending topic on social media, there have been other people, like notable examples of transracial. I'm not really sure how to address these people, but for instance, there's a lady by the name of Rachel Dozel or Dozel, and she was, well, I don't want to say famous, but she's a notorious older, like slightly older example because she, well, is a white woman that presented herself as a black person, like a black woman, and she just very strongly identified with being a black person to the point where she gave herself another name, like a more, I guess, African sounding name.
Mm-hmm.
And she went so far with this that she was a former chapter president of the NAACP, which is an American organization, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And in forums and stuff, like application form, she would claim to be mixed race, that her dad was a black man or specifically African American. And it was a huge, just a huge controversy at the time. And she actually, it wasn't until around 2014 and 2015 when there was a lot of controversy over her racial identity, and her parents publicly exposed her for not actually being a black person. And she ultimately resigned from being the NAACP chapter president.
Jesus. The fact that she was able to get that far like boggles my mind.
Mm-hmm. And it says here that in 2015, she acknowledged that she was born white to white parents, but still self-identified as black.
Jesus. We'll get into why it's so problematic later, but you know, hopefully you are listening and not thinking like, I don't see what the problem of this is.
Oh, and here it says she even tried to file claims for being victim to race-related hate crime.
Jesus.
And a police investigation did not find support for these allegations.
Oh, I wonder why.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, what a waste of a police investigation. God. Yeah. On a more lighthearted note, there is the term RCTA, or also known as ECTA. RCTA stands for race changing to another, and ECTA stands for ethnicity changing to another, or change to another. This has been a term that's been trending on social media quite a bit. Specifically, there are Discord servers of people who claim to be RCTA. And I've seen some people claiming that RCTA is a more educated stance on being transracial because it takes into account like learning about culture and stuff like that, which is so dumb, obviously. There is no educated way to do this, just saying. And so you may have seen this because people will go quote unquote undercover in these Discord servers and then take screenshots and repost it on like TikTok and stuff to like make fun of these people.
Uh-huh.
And so these servers work in a way that it's like all these people claim to be RCTA, right? They use and share subliminal videos to change their face. So subliminals, I think this it's such a chronically, this is all incredibly chronically online, by the way. We do not see this as a real issue that needs to be like, dissected and talked about why it's bad, because it's very clearly just like children online who are just being chronically online, and no one actually takes this seriously. Like, this isn't a serious issue. It's more like, this is funny. But subliminal videos are essentially just YouTube videos with imagery to subliminally like change something in a person. So there could be subliminals for like weight loss or stuff like that. But for RCTAs, they use subliminals to change their face. So the imagery would be of, their intended race and pictures of the culture, the food, stuff like that. And they use these Discord servers to like share subliminal videos and also to post updates on how their face changes by watching their subliminals and going through their transition, quote unquote. They also post face claims, which is essentially just pictures of faces. Yeah, it's just faces that they want to look like. So I've seen people post face claims, and it's like Lisa from Blackpink or something like that. And these Discord servers are just, a quote unquote safe space for people going through a race transition. And just like, it's trying to build a community of people who want to, change their race. Once again, this is not to be taken seriously whatsoever. We're not saying that, like, this is a really big issue that we need to combat. Like, it's very, very clearly just chronically online behavior. We just thought it was funny because it's trending quite a bit on TikTok right now.
I actually came across this topic through a Next Shark article, and I was a bit surprised that it had come back. I thought we were done with
this behavior.
Race transitioning and transracialism. I don't know if that's a word, but we will use it as one for now. Because I just hadn't really heard anything about it in a long time since Ollie London and all that.
Yeah.
And to see that article, which it was posted July 5th. It was pretty recent. And I was just thinking, oh, we're back. We're back. Like, this is where we're here again. It's back.
We've done a full circle. So we've kind of been dancing around this, but I think it's kind of obvious why it's like very problematic to claim to be transracial or to claim to like be doing an RCTA. It's very much just white people, it's mainly white people who want the aesthetic of being a person of color, and to even just try and claim the struggles that people of color face, but without actually having to go through all of that. So it's literally just the aesthetic of being a person of color.
Yeah, and seeing it as a costume. And one thing, sorry, were you gonna say something?
No.
One thing that just really baffles me is a lot of these people a good majority, basically, you could say all of them, they come into wanting to be transracial because they, for instance, like K-pop, anime, something pop culture related, something kind of, I don't know if I want to say mainstream, but just something
Surface.
trendy and fun. Oh, well, yeah, you could say surface level. Yeah. But something trendy and popular about a given race.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that baffles me is not that, but the fact that, well, I mean, that does baffle me, but you don't have to become Korean because you like Korean music.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to become Chinese because you like Chinese food. You can just eat Chinese food. Just
Mm-hmm.
enjoy. And I don't even know if the Chinese food you're eating is real Chinese food anyways.
Yeah.
These things don't have to come hand in hand. You don't have to become Japanese just because you like anime.
Yeah.
You can just like anime.
Yeah. You can appreciate something without having to become it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just so unnecessary.
And it's also kind of harmful from a psychological point of view
Oh, yeah.
to try so hard and then encourage people because there are transracial people that are above the age of 18 and are grown adults
Mm-hmm.
that are encouraging this and promoting what content, stuff like that surrounding this. And it's harmful because when you're young and impressionable and insecure, like going through puberty and everything, you question I mean, you're just very impressionable, and it can make people feel like they're not enough, and then somehow being another race is going to solve their problem.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't imagine how it would feel, let's say, if someone's taking this really seriously, like someone that is a kid and really wants to be Korean. I just can't imagine. Like, think about how, I don't know, you're listening to these subliminals every day, thinking that you're going to start looking Korean and your eyes are going to
Yeah.
start looking different, your face is going to start looking different, but it's not going to start looking different.
It is quite literally just like delusional behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It's not helpful.
Feeding into delusion
Yeah.
and encouraging them.
Yeah. And not to mention, like, being transracial or using the term transracial just completely like invalidates being transgender. Like, there's already so many issues that transgender people face on like being validated by, like the rest of society and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come in with people claiming to change races, and now you have the argument against being transgender of like, well, transracial people are clearly delusional, so like why are you not,
Yeah. And there's a lot of safety issues that come with being transgender and being openly
Yeah,
transgender and just leaving your house.
for sure. It's very harmful to, yeah, not only like people like POC, but also transgender people.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is a real like scientifically backed up thing. Like the concept, sorry, of being transgender is scientifically backed up. And you can, like, there is a process of transitioning that you can go through and, like, change, have like biological changes and stuff like that. being transracial, no, you cannot do that.
It bothers me knowing when I found out about the paper, that made me upset.
Mm-hmm.
There's supposedly another one that someone published. One moment.
Probably just as
Racial.
yeah.
Yeah, there's another paper that was published. Oh, it's a book. A year prior
Oh God.
that was arguing that although it's offensive, it's psychologically real. And it also draws parallels with being transgendered. The whole idea, just gender and race and age of unsettled identities. And I just don't. I think we're generalizing and just throwing blanket at this
Yeah.
point.
It's difficult because, like it said, like it's psychologically real, but then again, like anything can be psychologically real. Where do we draw the line? And personally, I think it's pretty clear that this is where we draw the line when it comes into, like culture, especially in Western societies where, at least like North America specifically, where there is a big diverse background or where people come from. You know, it's difficult, but I think it's clear to me that this is nonsensical.
Mm-hmm.
And very upsetting for, people of color, trans people, and just it makes us take a step back
Mm-hmm.
in the way that we are progressing in social norms of, self-identity and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think it's difficult to have conversations about this because, speaking about being transracial or RCTA, even just using the term validates it even more because you're acknowledging that it's a real or it's something that people use.
Yeah, I mean this episode.
Yeah, which is why, heavy disclaimers of like this is very much just us looking at something that is nonsense. We're in no shape or form being like this is something that people do and it's wrong, but it's like, it's a real thing. It's not real at all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
It's
I guess
real
it's
in the
real
sense
in
that
the
it's
sense that it's
used.
there, but it's
Yeah,
not.
but it's not an actual form of expression that people have, like it's not equivalent to being transgender.
It's not real in that sense.
No, it's just a chronically online term.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, someone needs to do a deep clean of the internet
I know.
for a million different reasons and a
Yeah.
million different things.
God, I would not do that job if I was paid a lot of money because where do you even start? But
I don't know.
it's needed.
I guess if there was a way to do, you know how when you search something, like a search term, if there was a way to just delete everything in relation to a given thing.
Yeah. We need a computer science guy on that.
We'll call one up.
Why don't you just call Taylor up?
Nice.
Yeah. Weird times we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Very weird.
Incredibly.
Once again, as we close this episode, this term being transracial and RCTA, not real. Not a real term.
Transracial adoption, real.
Yes, transracial adoption is real, and that's how the term should be used. However, in the sense of changing your race, that is not something that's valid. And it's even like, I feel chronically online to say that it's not valid because it should be common sense that it's not valid. You know what I mean? But yeah, we really do need to hit the point home in that this should not be a real thing. It is not a real thing. We will not let it be a real thing. Because it's such nonsense.
It's just another internet thing.
To be taken with a grain of salt and to just look at and, have a little laugh.
I don't even know if I can laugh. Like, honestly, it's just, I'm more speechless, if anything.
True, yeah.
Well, thank you for tuning in today. We hope you, I don't know if I want to say had fun, but if you, we hope that you enjoyed this discussion and maybe you came out of it with something. Or maybe you thought, Tiffany and Rihanna, I could have gone without knowing that information. Well, we could have gone without it too.
Yeah.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah.
Although we're not
don't shoot
players of the game. Pardon?
Don't shoot the messenger, you mean.
Yeah, that's a better one. And as always, feel free to leave a comment about whether or not you knew about this before, any thoughts you have you come across this on social media, on the news? Maybe you've read that paper before. Let us know any observation. Do you know someone that is claiming to be transracial?
Let us know what that's like.
We just kind of talked about this in the last episode, but I kind of want to classify that one person.
Yeah. Agreed.
From our past school that we went to together. It's transracial.
I think she would claim that, though.
One too many odd compliments to me about.
Yeah, for sure.
Very specific things.
Gross. Well, if you guys like this episode and want to stay connected with us, check out our website in the description. It contains links to our streaming platforms such as Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and more. Follow us for more behind-the-scenes content, announcements, and other random things we decide to put on there.
See you next time.